Hey, welcome back to 90s Bball Cards. This is the most passionate program for card collectors on YouTube and possibly even the internet. Today, I'm kicking off a fun series. I did have a little bit of a tease to this back in my first year, but we're really kicking it off now. And we've got Frankie, the infamous Frankie, the Jordan collector, with us today. We're going to start our series of Meet the Collector. In this series, what you can expect to see is I'm going to talk to a lot of collectors, and we're going to start to get to know the people behind the collections, see a little bit more about the collection, and maybe some other pieces of what these folks collect that you might not know. So we'll sprinkle these in with the normal videos, but without any further ado, Frankie, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, hello everyone, and welcome to the YouTube channel. My name is Francisco Gonzalez. I'm based in Puerto Rico. I've been collecting since around 1992. You can find me on Instagram at Frankie3500. I'm pretty sure some of you already follow me, but if you don't, go check it out and enjoy the collection.
Awesome. Thank you. So yes, Frankie, I know you've got a ton of Jordan stuff behind you. Everybody knows you as a Jordan guy. So before we dive into that, I know that we're in kind of unprecedented times. How are you doing with the coronavirus and everything going on outside of the global community?
Well, thankfully, I've been doing okay. I've been able to be working from home and taking meetings, and I've been doing a lot of sales, online sales directly here from home. So at least I've been busy, I've been safe, and I hope that everybody in the channel and watching this is also safe.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. I've been fortunate. I've been able to work from home as well. So that's definitely a luxury that not everybody has at this point in time.
Yeah.
They keep working and work safely. So I'm glad to hear you and everyone is safe right now. Hopefully that continues to be the case. So why don't we start off and start to get to know you a little bit. Like I said, we know you as the Jordan collector. So the Last Dance documentary has been going on. It just wrapped up actually while we're recording this last weekend. So have you been keeping up with that? What are your thoughts of the Last Dance?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was keeping up with the documentary the whole time. I didn't try to watch the episodes out of order, or I didn't try to skip ahead of the series. I wanted to enjoy the series as it was released. I guess the biggest takeaway that I got from it was all the business aspect of the game. When I was a kid, I was seeing MJ play, and all you do is you see the superstar. But you don't really understand as a kid all the politics behind the team building, the GM dynamics and the owner dynamics and stuff like that. So getting to see that background, getting to see all that backstage information was really, really great.
Yeah, and I had heard, I think Jackie McMullen said in one of the after shows with Scott Van Pelt that it really kind of humanized somebody who we turned into kind of an untouchable icon. We kind of got to see a little bit more really the person that Jordan is outside just playing days. So
it did, definitely. I mean, and I always knew he was a very competitive person. I really didn't get the extent and the level of his competitiveness until I saw the documentary. I mean, there were times that I was like, wow, I mean, this guy was insane,
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different level. I think Diana Taurasi also was saying that, she tried to model some stuff after Jordan. She said, there will be another there'll be another Jordan, but you have to sacrifice your life to do what they did. And that's really what he did. It was a lifetime devotion, it seemed like.
It did. I mean, the documentary was a great insight. I'm glad it happened because it gives a different perspective for the newer collector generations and the newer sports fans also about what playing in the 80s and 90s was like. We know there's a lot of debate about who's the best player and stuff like that. Honestly, there are different playing eras, different rules, different defensive rules changed a lot since the MJ days. So, each era has their player, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to get into the GOAT discussion. I think time will tell. But I think being a Jordan guy, we know where most Jordan fans sit on that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
So
definitely. That's an easy question to answer.
Exactly. So along with the documentary and the GOAT discussion that I think has been ensuing throughout this documentary, the Jordan market has been going wild.
Yes.
So I think you, probably being an MJ guy, know quite a bit more than I do about how the market's been going. So you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
It's been crazy. The first few weeks, I was totally caught off guard, especially because the cards that were going on, people were getting interested in, and the cards that people were buying were base cards, were common cards. And I was like, what's going on? I mean, there's better cards than this available. Why are people starting to pay such big amounts of money for base cards? As I started to look into it a little bit more, I came to realize that the newer generation of collectors, if you see the modern cards right now, it's all about the base cards basically, and you got the 10,000 different parallels of those. You got the golds, the shimmers, the disco, the tiger stripes, and you got way too many of them for my taste.
Right.
But that collecting trend basically switched to the 90s cards. So the newer collectors started looking for what they knew, base cards. The high grade inserts, the real rare cards, they took a little bit longer to show the increase in prices, but I do believe that a lot of them also basically just went through the roof, and for a lot more than I would have imagined they would go up.
Yeah.
I can think of the refractors, for example, and never in my wildest dreams would I thought that I would see some of the refractors at almost $10,000.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I had been hypothesizing, I think probably, the last 2 years while we were seeing more people enter the hobby, but I was thinking that, just getting a push of people who are brand new to the hobby, whether they're, reacclimating or not, I was always assuming that some of those more, entry level is what I kind of call them, quote unquote, entry level cards, but some of those more affordable cards, really, for somebody who's jumping back in, I don't know if they're going to go and buy, and just drop a couple $1,000s on a Luca Silver. But a couple $100s on a Luca base prism, I think might be a little bit easier pill to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense. You tend to go for what's popular, definitely for what looks good, and you can't deny that a lot of the MJ inserts, base cards have, especially the Fleer metals, they're one of the best looking cards out there, But at the end of the day, they're base cards though, so it was. I was kind of caught off guard by that.
Yeah. Now, with seeing some of these prices increase drastically, I mean, like some of it was overnight, it seemed like. Have you been, changing your behavior? Have you been selling stuff? Have you been still buying things? What have you been doing in the hobby recently?
I started selling a lot of the doubles that I had, and like I said, I couldn't believe that they were going for some of the NBA hoops cards for $20, $30, $40, and I was like, well, hey, I mean, if people are gonna pay that kind of money, then who am I to say no? I've been buying a couple of cards, but I've been very, very careful of what I'm buying, because I know that a lot of the cards will eventually retreat in prices. A lot of the cards are gonna, they're gonna go settle down a little bit. I'm not expecting them to go down to the price they were before the documentary, but I do expect them to retreat a little bit. So you always gotta be patient in this hobby. You gotta be patient. You have to know when to buy, and you have to know when to hold out. And I've been holding out more than anything. I've been lucky enough to purchase a couple of key cards for some of the sets that I'm finishing. So I've been doing a little bit of both, but more selling than buying.
Yeah, I am a very reluctant seller myself. I tend to buy things and I like to hold on to them. But one thing that I did move, was happy to move, was the Jordan base Chrome from '96. Yeah. I picked a copy of that up, which wasn't perfectly centered, but no greening, which was something that I wanted to find. early January for about $30, which is, about an average price.
Yeah.
And I was happy to sell that. Or I actually ended up trading that for a penny card. And I think at one point I saw that selling for like $400.
Exactly.
So more than 10x what I paid in January, which wasn't that long ago. And I think that you've probably seen that with even more rare things that, it's just going crazy.
It is. I mean, the other thing that I've been carefully chasing is the recent sales of the high insert cards, of the high-end cards. I was expecting a lot of the high inserts and the rare cards to start coming out of the woodworks. Start seeing a lot of more of them available online on eBay, on Facebook groups and stuff like that. That didn't happen to the extent that I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen another PMG green surface, for example.
True.
We haven't seen any recent auction sales for the Playmaker theaters either. So there's a lot of those rare cards that are basically already locked in PCs. People are not moving them, or if they're moving them, they're doing it via trades for some other high-end stuff.
Right.
So that I was surprised about how the market, reacted to that, because I was truly expecting to see, a couple of big cards hit the market.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, because I think a lot of people have been waiting to see, and it's hard to tell, with some of those really rare items, what the appreciation has been, where you see some of the base cards going up, and then some of the more common, even a 96 refractor is significantly more common than the 98 chrome preview refractor Jordan. And then, if you're starting to talk about the Playmaker Theater and, Slam Bams and all that kind of stuff, you're getting even more rare. And those things haven't popped up yet. But, it's hard to tell what the market value of that is if they're not showing up in public.
It is right now. It's very tough. I'm lucky to know a couple of collectors that own copies of those cards. And one of the discussions that we were having was, if I were to sell this, what price would I put on it? And we were all like, I don't know. We really can't say it's gonna be worth X, because it might be worth 3 times that. Someone would be willing to pay 3 times what we're thinking of. So it's been fun. It's been a challenge, because I love buying. I love to get new cards every single week. Yeah, I would get a card every single day. I was like, okay, I better hold off. Let's take a step back. Let's see where this is going. And don't get desperate.
Right. Speaking of loving to buy, any recent purchases, any significant acquisitions that you've made recently?
I have a couple of cards that arrived recently. They're not very expensive, but I'm trying to finish the members only collection for MJ.
Cool.
So I was able to get the members only Royal Court. These cards are usually a lot more rare than collectors take them for. First of all, they were not pack release. They were only sold to dealers directly. So the dealers needed to purchase the whole set in order to get the cards. And if the dealer didn't buy the set, then the card never made it to the market. So the other card that I got recently, I was lucky enough to find a PSA 9, is the 1990 Action Pack prototype card.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So this card particularly, Action Pack was trying to get into the basketball card business. They have a football set, an NFL set of these same cards. So they made a couple of sample cards to present to the NBA and to the players, but they never got released. They never got the license. So only the few sample cards that actually got printed remain. I think there's a couple of other players, of NBA players. I think there's a Magic Johnson, and I think there's a Patrick Ewing one. So I've been trying to focus my collection recently on these type of rare cards. They're not that expensive. And let me make this clear. When I say not that expensive, they're not $1,000, $2,000.
Yeah, it's all relative, right?
It's all relative, yeah. But they're not crazy high expensive, and yet the cards are a lot more rare than definitely than the base cards that we're seeing go for, 5 times, 10 times the values that I'm getting these rare cards.
Yeah, and I think those are really cool. I mean, like the action pack with the gold foil around it, cards with foil around the edges are tough. I mean, a PSA 9, those things chip so easily. A PSA 9 is a lot better than some folks may realize on some of those cards.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I know people are paying a premium for the PSA 10s right now, but sometimes the difference between a 10 and a 9, it's undistinguishable. You can really tell, why I got a 9, why this one got a 10. I've seen 10s that have terrible centering. I've seen 9s that you look at them and you're like, well, why is this a 9?
Yeah, right. What's wrong with that?
Exactly. And collecting wise, 9s are just as good as 10 since you can get the card for a lot cheaper and you get a little bit of extra cash for another purchase.
Right.
It's definitely good to have a 10. Everybody wants the perfect card, but you don't need to have the perfect card every time.
100%. Yeah. I mean, in my case, if I have an order with PSA that got shipped out just before they shut down, so we'll see when that comes back. But if those come back as a 10, I'm happy to trade it in for a 9 and acquire something else with the additional proceeds. Because most times, like you said, I can't notice the difference. I mean, I do not have a good eye for for grading type of condition. I know a lot of people are pretty good at it, but I mean, if I can't pick it up, if it's visually appealing, I'm fine. I mean, even at 8.5, sometimes it's hard to pick up.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, and there's some cards that they're just tough to grade. I mean, the Royal Court that I just showed you, that's a Pop 1, and it's an 8.5, and there's only one PSA 10, only one card higher ever graded.
Yeah.
So that's how difficult the card is. I mean, would I love to have the 10? Well, yeah, definitely. But first of all, there's only one copy, so who knows where it is.
Right.
And I'd rather pay $100 for the 8.5 than $1,000 for the 10.
Right. Exactly. It's more about the card than the grade, right?
Exactly. I've always said buy the card, not the grade. There's some cards that you gotta know what you're buying. You gotta know the product, especially with the 90s cards. You gotta know what cards are just too sensitive. And definitely a lot of the 9.5s and 10s go for so much money because out of 100 cards, maybe 10 of them rated PSA 10. But when you get cards that you got 1,000 PSA 10s, 2,000 PSA 10s of the same card, from a collector standpoint, it makes no sense that they're going for so much money. But oh well, it happens.
Yeah. It does. It definitely does. We'll leave that up to the smarter economists out there, right?
Yeah.
So, I think we talked a little bit about, moving cards around to, fund other things. So how, we don't have to get into too many details, but how do you tend to, I see you've got a beautiful collecting room behind you. How do you fund your PC? Is it really just kind of, what you make in your day job and you have a budget, or do you get creative with how you kind of fund your collection?
It's a little bit of both. I've been collecting since 1992, so a lot of my PC, I would say about 90%, maybe a little bit more of it, I have had it for over 20, 25 years. So when I came back into collecting around 2014, I started buying single cards again, but it wasn't that much. It wasn't that many cards. Mm-hmm. Basically, it was stuff that caught my eye, that I was like, oh, this is a nice card. And actually, I started buying a lot more autograph cards than I did Jordan cards, which, in retrospect, I should have been paying attention to the MJs a little bit more back then, but oh well. But I do have a lot of autograph cards that I have been chasing for years. And the most appealing thing for me about the autograph cards is that living in Puerto Rico, basically, we don't have NBA games. Mm. So trying to attend an NBA game as a kid, as a 15-year-old, as a 16-year-old, it was like basically impossible. So when Skybox started introducing the autograph cards in the packs with the Skybox autographic sets, I went nuts. I just had to have the set. And to this date, I'm fortunate enough to have made the first 2 editions of the Skybox autographic set.
Wow.
I've been able to complete them. So, and I'm looking at the 3rd one with, googly eyes. So
there's some big ones in that 3rd year, that 98, 99. But I mean, that 96, 97 is classic. I mean, that's impressive to complete that entire set, because some of those, especially like some of the rookies that are in there, those are really tough to find. And I mean, the Scottie Pippen's hard. The Roger Strickland's tough to get.
One of the best rookies from the set, Steve Nash.
And he was not a big guy early on in his career.
Exactly. He was not a big guy. I remember that the Grand Hill was actually the card that everybody wanted. Because I think it was the sponsorship player, the sponsor for Skybox back then, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and they even highlighted that card on the front of the boxes of Hoops. Really trying to push that product out there. So yeah, that was. I mean, it's still really collectible, but I remember that being like the card for a while.
Yeah, everybody wanted that specific card, and you also have that set has the first autograph of Kevin Garnett, for example.
Right.
Kim Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler. So you got a lot of nice Hall of Famers in it. And it was really good to have something like that accessible as a collector,
And if I'm not mistaken, the most rare autograph in that set is George McCloud. Is that correct?
It is. It is the hardest one to get. I have no idea why. Either people pulled it out of packs and went like,
Right.
Who's this guy, And
right.
But it's really hard to get a George McCloud, and a Rod Strickland was also a challenge to locate one. I don't have print run numbers on them, so I do believe that they all signed the same amount of cards, but I'm not sure of it.
Right. Yeah, it seems like there's fewer out there for whatever reason. And so the 97, 98 autographic set. Sorry, I'm an autographics nerd, so you got me excited. I didn't know you had those sets. Those are tough to come by. I think that I personally see those a lot less. But I had heard that the Tim Thomas actually didn't make it into packs. Is that
exactly
true?
It is true. What happened with the Tim Thomas was that Skybox sent the cards to the player to sign. They did that basically with every other player in the set. For some reason, Tim Thomas thought that the cards were a gift for him. So he kept them all. He kept them. And he just started giving them away to family, friends, and stuff like that at different times, but the cards never made it into packs. So at the end of the day, when they compiled the set list, they had to remove them in kind of a way, because the card was never actually accessible to collectors. I've seen a couple of them floating around on eBay. Sadly, I haven't been able to grab one. I've seen like 3 of them being offered in like the last 5 or 6 years, so it's pretty rare to see them.
Yeah, and so if those didn't make it back to Skybox, did those even get the authentication stamp? They must not have.
I don't think they have them. I don't think they have them.
Interesting. So maybe you could find one that's not autographed if you know a friend of Tim Thomas, then ask Tim Thomas to autograph it. Mail.
Yeah. I mean, from that set, this is definitely the card that you always wanted to have.
Oh, yeah, that Barkley.
That's the first autograph of Barkley, the first time he signed. So, I mean, that's part of the reason why I love these sets, because you get a lot of first-time autographs from a lot of the players.
Yeah. There's even, I think there's like, I don't know if it's fake or if it was later years, one of Penny produced, because Penny was an Upper Deck guy, and that's one thing I wish there's a Penny autographic, so that would be really cool. I mean, I could get that fake one or whatever it is, but it's not the same.
Yeah, definitely not the same. I mean, we had a couple of players missing from that set. Kobe Bryant, sadly, never made it to any of the sets. and Allen Iverson didn't sign until the third year of the set either. So the Penny, the Kobe, those two, man, and on the 96 set, they would have looked great.
They would have been sweet. Yeah, in that third year, so you mentioned Iverson. I think was that Tim Duncan's first autograph card as well for an NBA card?
It was the first one also.
That's a big ticket item. I mean, there's some, the Vince Carter, that rookie auto, I love those. Those are incredible.
Yeah, those were definitely one of the favorite cards and one of the best ones to get out of that set, and the Tim Duncan, there we go.
Ooh, man. I know some people are going to be jealousy in that one.
A lot of my cards, you're going to see that they're raw. 90s collector. I didn't get into grading until recently, so the problem that I got with grading is that it costs too much. And every time that I want to grade a couple of cards, I say, well, but I can buy more cards with that money. So
I'm right there with you. I mean, there are a couple cards that I like having graded just for the protection. Some of my cards are a little more delicate. But I look at, okay, well, what other card could I get with that, depending on the service and all that kind of stuff. I'm right there with you. And I always collected them raw, just like, we both grew up collecting in the 90s, and that was the only option.
Exactly.
For a long time.
It's basically the only option, so.
It's got to stay that way, right? So we also, like I said, that beautiful collecting room that you have behind you. So how do you store your collection? Do you have it all in like a dedicated room, or can you kind of take us behind the scenes a little bit on that?
Yeah, I have it on a dedicated room. I also store the cards. A couple of them are at a bank right now because, MJ just went crazy. So, but I also have a couple of fireproof safe. So just in case. But here, let me show you. This is one of the autographed jerseys.
Wow.
This is from the All-Star game.
Was that the 03 All-Star game? Or?
The 03 All-Star game.
Okay.
And this one here is from North Carolina. This was actually my first jersey.
That's sick. I love that.
Got a couple of the cereal boxes, the displays.
Yes.
Over here we got the starting lineup figures.
Oh, yeah. Those are super cool.
Some of the posters that I'm getting framed. So definitely give you a tour of the room once it's finished.
That's all right. Maybe we can look forward to an Instagram post of that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That'd be cool. And so one of the things that I always think is interesting, so if you have a dedicated room in your house, so what do your, friends, family, significant other, what do people in your life think of your collecting and your dedication to it?
Well, some of them understand it, kinda. My wife, I'm fortunate enough to say that she tolerates it. And she supports me. She likes me having a hobby. She likes having something to do out in the house, especially at this time.
Yeah.
And she understands that it's been a part of me for basically my whole life. It's something that I enjoy. I sometimes find myself talking cards with her, and she's like with this blank stare.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to Instagram, or I'm gonna go to YouTube, or I'm gonna go to Facebook and talk to the guys. So
right.
But yeah, I'm fortunate enough to have her understand it. She kind of has an idea of the value amount of the collection. Honestly, I have never sat down and started adding numbers because it's never been something that I was looking forward to.
Right.
I've always said that my collection became an investment, by consequence. It was not the intended idea behind it. When I started collecting, I wasn't thinking about, this is gonna make me so much money down the road in 20 years. I mean, I just wanted to have every single card that I could. So.
That's a really interesting way of looking at it. I haven't, we have a lot of the collector versus investor debate in the hobby, especially this year. And, I think that that's an interesting thought, I mean, I think is probably the same for me. It's an investment just by the consequence of it. That's kind of what it turns into, whether or not that's your intended purpose.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's nice to know that in case of any type of emergency, God forbid, you have something that you can, fall back into. But at the same time, it's last resort. I don't want to get rid of the cards. I don't want to get rid of the collection. But like I said, it was never the intention to become an investor or to become something that I was gonna live the rest of my life, gathering cards to sell. But it's nice to see the investor side of it. I do think that a lot of the newer investors are a little bit crazy, but but to each their own.
Yeah, some of the prices, it definitely seems like new money, if you will, in the hobby. But everybody has their learning curve, and everybody has what they enjoy.
Exactly.
So,
hopefully, a couple of the investors actually enjoy it and turn into collectors also. And they don't just sell everything. They start keeping a couple of cards for themselves, and they start finding out what they truly enjoy in the cards.
Yeah, and I think I've heard a lot of people talk about the community around the hobby, and I think that's kind of what makes people stick to it a little bit more so than necessarily the monetary value, because who knows what could happen with cards, right? We've seen the prices are very volatile at times, but if you develop friendships and relationships, you look at the cards and you're like, these are really cool, I really like them. I think it definitely can be a sticky hobby, which is a good thing.
It is. I mean, more than sports themselves. I mean, you can talk sports with someone, but you're always gonna have like the Yankees versus the Red Sox. And,
right.
I'm not gonna talk to you because you're a Red Sox fan or you're a Yankees fan. But when you collect sports card, you had something to talk with anyone. If I find out that you collect sports cards, oh, what do you like? You like baseball, football, basketball? I like this set. I like this player.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that a common ground that everybody can find, and you can talk with basically anyone in the hobby cards, and you're gonna be speaking the same language.
Right. Yeah, like when I go to the few shows that are around me, a lot of the people there are baseball, a few are football, and very few are basketball. But there's always something to talk about. Even if they're a vintage baseball collector, which I know very little about, it's like you said, it's a common language that you can all appreciate.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've found incredible people through Instagram this past couple of years, through Facebook. A lot of collectors that I would have never met, if it wasn't for the social media era that we're living. And I've been able to enjoy incredible collections and incredible points of view also. So It's been great. It's been fun getting back into the hobby 100%.
Yeah. So we talked about some of the things that you've picked up recently. Any other cards that you're kind of hunting, or maybe you're gearing up to try to go after, or anything that you're searching for?
I'm searching for two particular cards, and I told myself that I was gonna, it's probably not the best time to go after them because of the price hike, but I really think that I'm gonna make a push for them. I'm gonna make a push for the Star 101 extended rookie card.
Okay.
That's the only star card that I'm missing from all the star cards that were produced. Wow. So it's time to bring one home. And the other one that I'm going to try to make a push for, it's the first game jersey, the 97-98 game jersey. Ooh. So I know it's going to be an uphill battle, but...
That's a beauty.
Yeah. But they are. I'm going to be focusing on those two a lot more. Hopefully start selling a lot of my other players and my other doubles. And just kind of make a bank on those two cards.
Mm-hmm. Now, with the Star, where do you sit in the camp of which is the true rookie?
The Star card is the true rookie.
Okay.
I'm Team Star.
Okay.
I know that a lot of collectors don't consider them, like official NBA cards because they were not distributed in packs like cards were normally done. But I think they hold special significance in the hobby because you can probably call that period the dark ages of the basketball hobby. All the major companies set basketball aside and basically went like, well, it's not worth our time or money, to produce basketball cards. So this little company produced some great looking cards. Some of the photos, especially on the blow up ones, some of the photos are just some of the best photos of MJ. And plus the 86 Fleer, that's the king of the base cards, basically.
Yeah, there's a lot of PSA 10s popping up.
Yeah. For a card that's so expensive and so rare, there's never a lack of a PSA 10 copy available at auction. So people kind of don't consider that. But you can see more PSA 10 Michael Jordan rookie cards for sale than you can see as slam bands, for example.
Yep, absolutely. So also with the Star, I know that there has been some concern about fakes and grading and stuff like that. So are you concerned about fakes, or are you looking for a specific graded copy from a certain company? What are you looking for in that Star?
On the Star card, I'm probably looking for a BGS grade 7. Probably make a push all the way up to an 8. It's kind of interesting because I had a lot of the Star cards raw for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I submitted them to BGS, because I said, well, it's time to get them graded. Let's make sure that the cards are original and stuff like that. Every single card came back at BGS 9.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I should make the set then all BGS 9, right? Nah, when I saw the once I saw what the Star 101 BGS 9 went for, I was like, okay, maybe we can get a lower grade, I want to break the bank too much.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I don't know off the top of my head, but what do the populations look like for BGS 9 on that with the 101?
With the 101, it's pretty low. It's pretty low. Not a lot of those cards have been graded, and not a lot of those cards were made with a good enough centering. That's basically the biggest flaw those cards have. So you can have a BGS 7 that has 6.5 centering.
Okay.
And 9 corners, 9 surface, 9 edges. So it's basically the centering more than anything. The eye appeal of it, it's definitely something to consider.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. But one of the things that I think is an interesting thing that you had alluded to is that there are other players that you collect outside of Jordan. We talked about Jordan, the autographs. Yeah. So can you share with us?
A couple of players, and my autograph collection and the other players, I'm basically looking for very specific cards. Now, I don't just buy any of them. One of the cards that I'm most proud of, this card took me 20 years to chase down. I finally got one last year. And it's...
Oh, wow.
It took me 20 years to hunt a copy of this one. And in those 20 years, I've probably seen 3 or 4 different ones.
Okay.
So it's not supposed to be limited.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one of the hobby legends is that there's actually 20 copies of it. But Upper Deck never released that information. Given the time it took me to hunt down one, I wouldn't be surprised if, if there was less copies of it. The other 2 cards, I was lucky enough to pull this one back in the day, and it was one of the cards that got me started on the set. And I've been chasing a couple of his signatures also.
Oh, wow. You pulled that one?
This one was pack pulled back in 1999, 2 weeks before he sadly passed away.
Wow, that's the story of a lifetime there.
I remember pulling this card with my dad, and I just flipped. I started screaming, and my dad was like, "What's wrong? Did something happen to you?" And I was like, "No, we pulled the Wilt Chamberlain card. We got it."
Wow, unbelievable.
A couple of months later, we got the other one.
You pulled that one too?
Yep.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
We got the other one.
Thrill.
These are my two favorite sets of all time, the Legends and the Retro cards. I can buy boxes and open boxes of those all day. I don't care if I get a $5 autograph card out of it. It's just my favorite set, and it's just incredible cards to open, you know.
Oh yeah, and those are tough packs to find. You know,
Yeah.
not a lot of those left unopened.
Not a lot of those are available right now, and some people are starting to collect sealed boxes. You know, I've seen it. It's something that's been going on for a couple of years now. I couldn't do that.
No,
I see a box and I just want to open it.
yeah.
You know?
I've got you might be able to see it behind me. I've got the Penny Retro lunchbox.
Yeah.
That has definitely been opened. There's nothing left in that, but it's sitting there because it's pretty.
It is. It's a great looking card. The other players that I started collecting, I started a little side project, and I wanted to collect, for example, team important cards with team members. Now, I didn't focus only on recent team members. I wanted to get a couple of cards of, like, you know, let's say the Lakers through the ages.
Okay.
So I started looking for combinations, Shaq and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar,
Unbelievable.
combination of Laker cards.
Kareem does not sign a lot either.
He doesn't sign a lot. And the cards are getting rarer by the day, basically. This is the other one.
Oh
Bill
my goodness.
Russell, Larry Bird.
Bill Russell's another guy that his autographs are becoming a little bit more prevalent in the modern products, but I mean, for years he refused to sign for people actually.
Oh yeah, he refused to sign for a couple of years. By that time I already had these two, so.
Oh my goodness.
But like I said, I've been chasing autographs of very specific players, very specific cards. I try to get the Hall of Famers. I have a list, for example. I want to complete a list about having an autograph card of every player that's won the All-Star Game MVP.
That's really cool.
I got another list of every player that's won the NBA MVP. So
Wow.
Just get one copy of each player, of one autograph card. One of the biggest ones that I got recently was this George Mikan.
Nice.
This is basically the rarest autograph he has. It's numbered. It's out of 46. So it's the best one you can get from him, you know.
Absolutely.
It's really nice.
Not a lot of Mikans to go around.
Yeah, and he's not signing anymore. So,
Nope.
You know, I'm surprised that players like him and a couple of others that have passed away, the cards haven't picked up, you know, that much. You would consider that the fact that they're not signing anymore, that the cards would go up a lot more. Thankfully, they haven't, so gives us a chance to grab a couple of them.
Right? Keep it quiet, keep it on the down low so you can get the one you want, right?
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, this has been really fun, Frankie. I appreciate you kind of giving us a little bit of a look behind the curtain and getting to meet you and the man behind the collection. I think we could probably talk for, you know, hours and hours on end. Last question for you is, with the postponement of the National due to the coronavirus, do you have plans to try to make it out to this year's National, or are you trying to wait for a future National to come out for?
I'll definitely try to make it this year. Gotta wait a little bit more because I want to see what the state of the situation is going to be,
Right.
you know. But if it's possible, I'm definitely going to try to make it. I already had plans to go in the summer, so, you know, trying to adjust them to go in December shouldn't be too hard.
Yep, I'm right there with you. You know, obviously keeping a close eye on everything. So hopefully we can go and we can link up, and maybe I'll bring some packs. You can pull some Will Chamberlains for me.
Oh, definitely.
All right, I appreciate it, Frankie. I'm sure we will talk later. But before we sign off, is there anything that you would like to plug, or anything you'd like to share before we wrap this up?
Well, basically just one thing, you know, collect what you like. That's basically it. Don't let the trends and don't let anybody else influence what you like and the players you like, the cards you like. Collect what you like, and definitely try to collect within your means and have patience. If it took me 20 years to track one card down, waiting a couple of months to get a copy of another card is nothing, basically. So,
love it. Couldn't say it any better. All right. Well, thank you, Frankie. If anybody has any questions for Frankie, I think you said you shared your Instagram handle, but I will link that up down in the description, or at least I don't know if I can create a link, but I'll put it down in the description.
Yeah.
So if anybody's looking for Frankie for any questions, you can get in touch with him on Instagram.
Yeah, definitely. Always love to talk hobby, so shoot me a message and we can talk all day.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Frankie. We'll talk later.
Yeah, later.